on a few fronts. Thought we'd talk about a few things. One, we're elated that Matt Wilm has been given a 6th year by the NCAA. We think it's a game changer for us and for him. No kid in Division I that I'm aware of has been through more in the last 5 years than Matt has been, playing with a torn labrum, having back-to-back broken foots, in consecutive years, inability to ever have an off season, inability to ever lift, inability to ever work on his game. And he'll have all of those things this year. And we saw marked improvement with him this year when we were finally able to practice him in January after not being able to practice over a 2-year period. And I think he's got a legitimate chance to be one of the better big guys in the country. On another front, we are taking our team on a trip to Costa Rica, August 15th through the 20th next year, where we're going to be able to play 3 games. And the significance of this is that we have a terrific group coming in, 7 new players that will be added to our group, with a core group of returners who will be with us that have elected not to go pro this year, and that will be here, which gives us a tremendous opportunity to bring these young guys along and get them better. One reason I wanted to bring that up now is because our fans are going to be able to go on this trip with us. They can call the UTEP athletic department if they want for all the details. Costa Rica is supposed to be a nice place, and I think they might enjoy that 5-day little trip and be able to watch 3 games with the minors in the summer and be able to see what our new guys are about. It gives us a great opportunity to bring our new guys along, because we'll be able to have 10 days of practice prior to the trip to Costa Rica, and then 2 days of practice in between games in Costa Rica, which will put our young guys really mid-December when we start October 1, and gives our team a chance to get off to a better start than we had last year. By the way, that was a poor start last year, and it had a lot to do with lack of returning players, lack of depth, injuries, etc. As far as our schedule is concerned, the highlights of it so far are a trip to Puerto Rico that we'll be taking in November, where we're going to see the likes of South Carolina, who will be there. Florida State will be in that tournament. I have Boise State will also be in that tournament. They're still trying to field the other 4 teams, in that field. And again, it gives us a chance to play against a team possibly that was in the Final Four last year. Chance to play against a great ACC team in Florida State. Those are trips that we're always looking forward to. Our home schedule will be improved because next year, in addition to New Mexico State, we will have Washington State in here out of the Pac-10, the University of New Mexico, and their new coach, which has been quite the topic here locally here the last 48 hours, will be coming in here, in addition to what we think will be a very strong Sun Bowl tournament, Don Haskins tournament field on December 22nd and 23rd. Do you all have any questions you'd like to ask me?
On the Costa Rica trip, are you guys scheduled to play pro teams, college teams? How does that kind of work? I've seen it different where teams go somewhere they'll play.
Generally, there'll be teams comprised of professionals, in the Central American and South American areas. Yeah, and there'll be a team there from Costa Rica as well that's has their the best that they have to offer. What you're trying to get out of this more than anything is the opportunity to get your new guys out there and practice and play and make them aware of how we're going to play and what we're going to do, and then get a feel for them in competition.
Having that core group that you talked about, the 4 or 5 guys that played a lot last year, Omega, Jake, Trey, all those guys, mixed with these new guys, do you feel like they can click because of this, early season?
Yeah, that was the reason why we did it. That was the reason why we did it. We started planning this last fall. We knew that we were going to have a big class coming in November. We already had 2 guys sitting here who we think are going to be terrific players. And Isaiah Osborne, who was the freshman of the year in the Canadian colleges. He had a game of 37 last year in one of these exhibition games against a Division I team from the States. 6'6" two-guard. We have a 6'6" small forward that's sitting out by the name of Trey Wade, who we think is going to be a terrific player. And then we were able to go out and add 5 guys in November, and then one in the spring. And we've added a little bit of everything, and have had a little different recruiting mindset going into this year. The idea of what's going on in college basketball with the transfers, that we wanted to be on the front end of it. And we signed over what the numbers allowed, knowing that there would be attrition. There's already been, of the 350 Division I schools, 261 of them have already had a transfer. And we knew that we might be the recipient of that. So we wanted to make sure we weren't caught like we were last spring with Lee Moore, Josh McSwagan, leaving us at the same position, and that we were going to be covered at every spot with a quality player, and that's why we were very aggressive in November.
Class of 2017, are you done? Are you expecting anything? Or
We are done. We are done. We have added a young guy today. You guys will have the name here later. 6'9", 290 pounds. Rebounder, defender, strong, physical guy who can pass it out of the post. Will remind our fans a lot of Cedric Lane when he got in here. And we think he's a developmental big guy, which gives us 3 bigs with the return of a guy that we're really excited with in Kelvin Jones and Matt Will. We saw a young power forward really develop last year in Paul Thomas. We've added a couple of guys that can help us there as well with Tyrus Smith, 6'9", 241 out of Petal, Mississippi, who was on the Dandy Dozen in the state of Mississippi. He's a guy who can shoot the 3, can post, and can help us. We've added Roderick Williams, who was rated as the number 11 junior college player in the country, 6'7", 215, who can play both interior and outside as a 3, facing up, and does some great things from that position. We mentioned the addition of Trey Wade, who averaged 19 points in a district in Atlanta that had 11 guys go Division I out of that district. He was one of the premier talents in the state of Georgia, and will be as good as any perimeter player that we have coached here since we've been at UTEP. We've added 2 point guards. We know that there's a big void to fill next year with the loss of second-team All-League Dominic Artis, who played terrific for us in January and February. But we've added Kobe McGee out of San Antonio, Texas, who was rated as high as a number 8 player in the state of Texas. He was an all-region player, was the MVP of his district, and I think a true point guard. We've also added a point guard out of Chicago by the name of Evan Gilliard, who lost in the state finals in the state of Illinois. He was first-team All-State, first-team All-City at Simeon High School, which is one of the premier powerhouses in Chicago. We think both guards are capable of coming in and playing early. We're not as concerned with playing a freshman point guard next year when you look at our league, and Tyreek Dixon at Middle Tennessee was a starter as a freshman. The Nixon kid who started at UAB 2 years ago on their team that beat Michigan State in the NCAA tournament. Beat Iowa State in the NCAA tournament, was a freshman point guard. He was hurt this year. We saw a freshman point guard play at a high level at Louisiana Tech this year, who finished second in our league in Bracey. And we feel like these 2 point guards are on the level of the guys that we just talked about.
In terms of Matt being able to grant to that extra year, and you mentioned towards the end of last year about Trey being on, I think you mentioned on your radio show about Trey being on an athletics or academic type of deal in terms of his grades. How does that change your scholarship distribution, or maybe even going deep into redshirt with this new group coming in, trying to balance that type? I think with 13 scholarships you have to have.
Well, we have 13. We will be at 13 next year. We will absolutely be at 13. And Trey is on an athletic scholarship. But in addition to that, he is an academic grant because he's a 4-point whatever student, which is a nice thing for him. Matt will be a graduate. Jake Flaggart will be a graduate working on their master's degree. Trey Touchette will graduate in December with a year and a half of eligibility still left in December. They're all on track to do good things academically, including Omega Harris, who we're obviously proud of. He was third team All-League. I thought made great strides this year, the second half of the season, January and February. And he'll be in a little different role in terms of leadership and the things that we're expecting him to try to get done with our team in the offseason.
You think, weathering the storm last year is going to help these guys at the beginning of this season? They've got a fresh start, a blank slate almost.
Yeah, and you used a great term, weathering the storm. Weathering the storm, because from last April through January 7th this year was arguably the most difficult stretch of my career. And I think for our fans, but also for our players, with the defections, guys that a guy goes pro, guy goes, be with his girlfriend. Those things jolted us, and we were in a catch-up situation all spring, all summer, trying to find guys that might be able to help us and fill in those two spots. And when you're looking in scrambling in May and June and July, it puts your program in a hole, and also the kids that you bring may or may not have been the right guy when you're filling it late. There's not much left late, and that's why we were so aggressive this year in November with our roster, what we were trying to do. We feel like there's a lot going on right now in terms of how teams are being picked apart at the mid-major level. You look at the transfer list, it's just staggering what's going on in terms of guys leaving and being recruited up a level. We're seeing it with top 4 scorers at Rice University, Florida Atlantic, Charlotte University. Memphis has lost their top 6 players. University of Connecticut has lost 4 players. It just goes on and on and on. And it's a new world. So we had a different formula in November that would make us best prepared to make strides the following year, which is next year. And we think that this Costa Rica trip is going to be a big, big part of it.